Yeah. So, good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this third thematic deep dive on digital twins and decision-making tools for PED. Brought to you by a whole bunch of experts from the Expert Support Facility group, mainly Martin and Lian and Ensa, who unfortunately is not here with us today, but also supported by Martin's colleagues, Frank and Ewood, which in turn is supported by the ESF staff of Annelos, Christoph, and me. And Carlo here is our tech support for today. Much appreciated. Any technical questions in the chat or directly to her. The focus of this deep dive is on digital tooling to design PEDs, to predict and control the energy flows in a PED, and to monitor PEDs and evaluate their effectiveness. All this to accelerate PED development in relation to the mission of 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030. And these deep dives, they shall serve as a starting point for thematically focused learning between PED projects, but it is also a learning process for us as facilitators. So please help us a bit by some constructive feedback in the end of the session. And the goal is to foster a collaborative and open environment in the discussion rooms, where you can share ideas freely, so that we can live with inspiration and some practical takeaways. And with that said, we're thrilled to have you as a part of this exciting deep dive, and let's get started. A bit about the background and a larger context. The PED pathway within the DUT partnership has a vision to initialize 100 PEDs in Europe by 2025 and contribute to the mission on climate neutral cities with a portfolio of PED solutions until 2030. And we are in 2025 now. So at the PED conference in October, we will, of course, celebrate this halftime goal. And once again, just like Annelos did for the second deep dive, you who were there, the 3 pillars of efficiency, flexibility, and production. But in the updated framework definition, we want to emphasize that, or put more emphasis on that PED can be so much more than that. It is also a holistic concept integrating social, economical, and ecological sustainability aspects, and thus achieving multiple benefits and unlocking systemic change. And for PED engagements at all levels of governance and empowerment of local energy communities are key in wanting to realize a PED. And throughout the perhaps never-ending process of realizing a PED, digital twins and decision-making tools for PED, which we soon will hear more about, can be crucial elements in order to succeed. And a bit about the background for concerning the Expert Support Facility. In the PED Transition Pathway, a need for a supportive expert panel for strategic development and a need for a continuous cooperation between projects and project outcome was identified, as opposed to synthesization after a project has ended. So with that, the ESF was established as a supportive panel towards the PED Call 2 projects. in order to support those very needs. And a bit about the intention with the deep dives. Many of the projects has clearly expressed this need for thematic exchange at the DUT partner meeting in April, as an example. So, which then led to the formation of the deep dives. So this event, the previous sessions and the upcoming sessions are all excellent opportunities to collaborate with fellow professionals and explore best practices. So we encourage you to invite your colleagues or project partners from PED Call 2, DUT Call 22, and DUT Call 23. All of these projects in the family are highly welcome to join these deep dives. And furthermore, as I already mentioned, the deep dives shall serve as a starting point for synthesizing approaches, achievements, learnings in different areas from the PED projects. And we will therefore make these recordings viable and internally, and also a short paper for each topic that has been discussed will be produced. And we think that this output can serve multiple purposes, guiding both current and future practitioners, researchers, policymakers on these key PED-related topics. And they will be used in the DUT Innovation Portfolio and communicated at the upcoming PED conference this fall. So with that said, I'm not leaving over to Ensa since she's not here today. I will also take you through the agenda, actually. I hope you feel a bit welcomed and introduced to today's session. Martin will, firstly, Christoph will, of course, handle an icebreaker, a bit of a warm-up, to get the feeling where we all come from, etc. And then Martin will introduce you to the topic before listening to 4 very interesting project pitches. Then we will have a small break to stretch, get some air energy before going into thematically formed group rooms in which we will discuss different key questions. Then we conclude in a plenary discussion, and we ask you for your evaluation, and then we will make some closing remarks. So with that said, I will leave over to you, Christoph, to take us through the small check-in.
Thank you very much, Jonas, and welcome also from my side to everybody. Great to see you all here. Yes, the first people are already checking in. Please, you know Menti, I guess, go to menti.com and enter the code, or just screen the QR code. Some very basic questions. First one, who are you? Or what are you, as what are you working? And they will. Can you let me share the screen, Jonas?
Of course.
So that we have visual.
I'm not sharing now.
On my screen, you are.
Okay.
I still see the slide.
Okay, I don't know how to stop it really. Yeah.
We could advance without sharing the questions. We see it on our phones probably.
Yeah, okay. So currently we're 78% researchers, 16%, 15 working for a company, and 6%. Now we can.
Now you can share. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So that you can also see. this is who you're all working for. Yeah, not unsurprisingly, most of you are researchers. Let's go to the next question. Which project generation are you working in? So this is, I think, the first time that we explicitly also invited projects from DOT Call 2023. And it's great that already some people of that project generation are participating. Nice. I don't know if the 6 people not working in a project are from the organizing team, or
probably another project which is not part of the DOT.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we had some Horizon projects for the first deep dive.
Yeah, but great distribution among the different generations. And I think the final question is the country you're calling in from. Oh, the country you're representing. So it's not about where you're born, but which country you were representing in your project, to get a bit of an idea of the geographical spread of people we have here. Nice. Quite nicely spread across Europe, with Sweden and the Netherlands. We even have 2 Netherlands here. I guess it needs to be added. Yeah, but nice spread, north to south, east to west also. Poland here, Belgium, Turkey. Yeah, great to see and great to have you here. Thank you. Let's have an exciting discussion in this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I will try to share again then without screwing anything up.
And then I take over in talking.
Exactly. Over to you, Martin.
My name is Martin van der Laan. I'm a professor of Hanze University in the Netherlands, and I will give a short introduction to the subject. We are talking about digital twins and decision-making tools for PED. If you take me to the next slide, which is my name again, so you can go to the next. This is more or less the task that we have. We are either establishing a PED, or we have already a defined region where we would like to make it into a PED. So we have to think about the boundary and also about our relation to the outside world. And if you advance, Jonas, your PED is typically filled with local production, because that is necessary to become a PED. You need to have some local production, hopefully renewable, but it might be that you need something else on top. And you have a lot of consuming devices or houses or factories, whatever, which of course you would like to make as much as possible energy efficient. And you have to talk about flexibility. And if you advance, Jonas, then you have to talk about 2 things. One more, please. First of all, the energy balance within your PED. And in order to do that, you have to see, okay, does the production match the consumption? And if not, what to do? And secondly, the transport capacity, because making it to 0, you get a kind of island, but normally you rely on the outside world and assume that you can interchange energy with the outside world, but you have to stick to the limits which are there. If you advance, please. And then you need to more or less to puzzle your PED together. And in order to do that, we think decision-making tools are helpful in that. To understand your PED, to determine the demand patterns, to see the local generation capacity, to see the spontaneous simultaneity between that. And if it is not, then you know what to do to make it more simultaneous. To discuss the PED boundaries, did we choose them well, or if we extend the PED with a little extra, does it better. So a lot of what if questions, dimensioning. If you then have this vocabulary out of balance keeping, so you will have probably controllable production. You have demanding houses, industries, mobility where you can apply demand response. You probably have some kind of local storage which you have to manage, and you have to manage the interconnection with the outside world. And you have to do that on a day-to-day basis. You have to do day-night patterns, but also seasonal patterns. And for that, the digital twins come in. If you advance to the next, and that is more or less when you want to operate your system, when you want to design an algorithm, when you want to do control strategies, you could do it right from the start on the actual real world, but better you do simulations. And in order to do good simulations, you need representative digital twins. So there is where the twins come in, which is typically mirroring to physical counterparts. It's real-time connected to real-world data, and you can use it to test and implement and optimize control strategies. And on top, and some people are doubtful about it, so that could be a nice discussion question, would a digital twin be able to capture also human behavior? Because it's not only devices that talk together. In the PEDs, there is a lot of humanity, and they do also things with their devices. So that I leave that as a question for the breakout. Yeah, that's more or less my introduction, and which brings us to 4 interesting pitches from different projects, which will lead us more into this subject. Thank you, Jonas.
Thanks a lot, Martin. Before we move into the project pitches, however, we're going to look a bit on the content-related Mentimeter questions that was sent out.
That's too fast.
No problem at all. Christoph, do you want to take us through these questions?
Yeah, just a quick recap of what you have answered in the pre-meeting survey that we sent out in the Menti. Just a reminder for the next deep dives, it would be really nice if we have a broad participation in these questions, because it's the first collection of inputs from the projects. So thank you to all of them that responded. I know you've flooded with requests and everything, but that would be really cool if we get a bit more responses to these pre-meeting surveys. Next slide, please. So just to give you an impression, not really surprisingly, because you were invited and interested apparently in this deep dive. For the majority of the respondents, it's a major the concept of digital twins and digitalization is a major challenge in your project, or at least a very important task. And one person answered that that the focus is somewhere else, but apparently still somehow interesting to deep dive into that. Next slide, please. Again, this is on the digitalization tools for decision making in your project. Similar responses here for those who responded. A rather big task or challenge. Next slide. We also got some qualitative responses here. How do you see the possible alternatives to digital twins and processes of digitalization in a progressive way in general? The city information modeling or urban information modeling was mentioned, but how to apply them to the urban scale and connect to GIS systems. Human-centered processes that prioritize real-time adaptive decision-making. Yeah, digitalization is a necessity, whether digital twin or anything else, it's important. And someone brought up hybrid approaches, semi-digital twins as an alternative. Happy to dig a bit deeper into these discussions if the people are here in the subgroups, I guess, but these are already some interesting responses. And we have another one on, next slide, please. Jonas, I don't see the next slide. Okay, that's my bad connection apparently. I hope you can still hear me.
Oh. Okay, and then we are running again.
Sorry.
So,
Yeah, but maybe let's skip it and stay on the
we're
same
moving
track
to
and
the
hand
project
over
pages
back
now,
to you.
Christoph.
Sorry for my bad connection.
No problem. So the first project out today is on the topic of digital twins and decision-making tools for PED is the FlexPost project, and Frank Pierre here today will present. The floor is yours, Frank. Should we switch? Do you want to share your own
Yeah, if we
slides?
can switch, that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I will try to. I don't have that option once again to. It's very weird from my side. Maybe it's because I'm not made a host of the.
Let's see if I can force it.
Perfect. Yeah, you have to. You could force it, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
yes.
good.
Hostile takeover. So, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you for having me and sharing this presentation. Of course, thank you for joining us in this presentation. So, my name is Frank Pieri. I'm a senior researcher at the University or Applied Science of Hans University, and I'm part of the lectorate of Martin van der Laan. And I will take you a little bit into the journey of the decision-making tools and also the ones that we adapted for FlexPost, and I will go a little bit wider than FlexPost alone. And I like to start actually with this picture. And I hope it will switch. Yeah, this is a very familiar picture in the Netherlands. And this is a little bit how we see in the Netherlands how the energy transition sometimes is going. Because this is the worst soccer team in the world, also known in the Netherlands as FC Knudden. And what we have here actually is a lot of players on the field, and they're all doing their own thing. They're not really communicating with each other, and they're not really understanding each other. And if you do not communicate with each other and you don't understand each other, how can you then arrive at certain points together? How can you plan a renewable city together? And that's actually a little bit my starting point often in projects as well. Like, and I like to think about how can we use models and tools to help this process get along. And that's what we're looking at right now. And that's also the starting point of this discussion. And within FlexPost, we thought about that as well. And we said, okay, how can we help one of our project partners in FlexPost from A to sustainability with the knowledge that we have within Entrance? Well, first of all, of course, the stakeholders or people, they will need to get going together. They need to have willingness to be part of this project. Very important. And to get it, of course, you need a clear goal where you want to go towards. But then also they need to think and talk together to get this plan moving. So what should we do together? What do I find important? What are my interests? What are your interests? How can we help each other to then go further towards this goal? The interests of a grid operator are completely different than the interest of, for instance, people. They have different challenges that they have to face. So they have to figure out what the challenges
I'm
are.
sorry, Frank. Some people can't see the presentation. Is that true for everyone?
I cannot see it.
I can see it.
I can see it.
If you go on
can see.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, on top of the screen, you can choose between the screen of Jonas and the screen of Frank.
Right.
So there, maybe you can activate it.
Yeah, Sander and Claudia, who said that on top of the screen you can switch between the screens.
Yeah, now I see it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
So you can switch back again after the presentation. Now it's good. Now we've got everybody on the same line again, right? Or you'll have miscommunication. So where we were talking about was actually this line, what we call the line from A, sustainability. How do you get these people along? And we said, how do we get these people along? To get them together, talking together, but also to have a clear goal together. And then, of course, when you go further, you need a good plan. And this plan needs to be set in stone together and say, okay, this is what we commit to. And when you have this plan in option, yeah, you know there are going to be setbacks. How are you going to deal with those? Those questions are come along as well, and you have to stay on track. Are we still sticking to the plan? What do we need to do to keep this plan going? And a little bit into that theme, we have what we call the energy transition roadmap, or toolbox. And this is what we kind of designed a little bit to support this A2 sustainability idea. And in this toolbox, we actually have this process that we can place specific tools where, for instance, somebody like the municipality of Leeuwarden that is facing grid congestion, that we're going to look at what is their problem and what kind of tools can we actually provide them to help them in this chain from A to sustainability, to make them more aware, but also to make them more strongly supported in the planning process. And what we actually want to do is to collect tools, not only tools from our own university, but tools from, let's say, all over the world that can support these decision makers to help them through this process of awareness, willingness, and then planning and maybe even execution. And that's what we call the energy transition roadmap. And if we go further, here are some examples, for instance, of what could be a tool within this energy transition roadmap. It could be as simple as a game. And this game could help people, by playing this game, understand what is the difficulties in energy transition and what do we need to do together to make this continue faster. Which kind of discussions do we need to do? So this game already helps a lot in awareness and willingness. So this could be one example of these tools. Another example that we have is what we call the We Energy tool. And this tool we applied in the FlexPost project. And this tool, this actually looks very complicated, but this tool can help with the decision making and what kind of technologies can I use to actually lower grid congestion, and would that be feasible for us? And we did it in such a way that we could do it together with stakeholders. So we combined the map of Leeuwarden, where the grid congestion is, and we have these tickets that you see on the map that could be technologies that they can place on the map. And then we show what the effect is of their decisions and their choices on the screen. And this helps for decision makers to get along as well, because the model I just showed you is way too complex for decision makers. But the process, when you take these decision makers along in the process of planning renewable energy, gives them the feeling that they understand what is happening as well, and gives them more, let's say, base to make good decisions. And this is a little bit what we're focusing on also in FlexPost to help them. So yeah, that brings us to a question. Can this be useful in the decision-making process for municipalities or provinces? And this is also why I invite you to join, for instance, my parallel session, no commercials here, to further this discussion. And I have a nice GI-generated picture that actually shows a little bit what I could see in the future as the combination between a digital twin and a decision-making process, where you have the stakeholders surrounding this digital twin, where they can plan together and see directly what the effect is of their decisions and get the feedback of their decisions directly. And this is one of the ideas that we are trying to push forward as well as at the Hanze. So hopefully this was shortly in my time, and if you want to know more, you can always contact me, and maybe I will see you in the break room. Thank you very much.
Very much on time there, Frank, with your presentation, which actually makes room for one or two possibly follow-up quick questions. And you will have also, of course, time to dig deeper into this with Frank in one of the breakout rooms. Are there any quick questions? Otherwise, we can move directly on to the next project pitch.
I have a quick question. I don't know how to raise my hand.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
What is which parallel session is that?
That's the third one. It's about decision-making tools. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you once again, Frank. So a question then to everyone. Do you see my shared screen now again? Yeah, okay, yes, perfect. Yes. I don't know if Christoph or Caro, what's the root of this problem, but I can't, I don't have the ability to move shared screen to the next presenter, which I did on previous sessions. But anyways,
Jonas, you just need to stop sharing. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but there is no such button.
Okay.
It doesn't look like it used to do here in the Zoom menu for me. So something's a bit odd here today. Thank you, Leanne. I was just
I'm
going to
forcing
get
you
to
as
your...
well. It's a kind of multi-sharing session on here. I don't know, but it's a bit special,
Yeah.
but yeah. Okay. Yes, then I will continue. I'll just make
Yeah, the
full
floor is
screen.
yours. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks a lot. And also thank you for having me. It's very nice to be here. My name is Liane Thywander. I'm Professor in Architecture Sustainable Building at the Chalmers University of Technology. And I will represent the digital twin for PED project, which is somehow aiming at using digital twin or digital tools for dialogue and quality assurance support, with focus on, of course, the energy part. And we have partners in Austria and Turkey and Sweden, focus on different areas, both on new construction, operation, and renovation transformation. And here I will present the Swedish part, which is focusing on the transformation of an existing mixed-use area and also wants to add new buildings. So it's quite interesting challenge to work with. Our goal for the Swedish part is somewhat to transform going from the digital model to decision support tool. You can see different abbreviations compared to the previous speaker, and finally end up in some digital twin. But we also have a more broader interpretation of the digital twin. Maybe it's not always related to real-time data. So we want to use this tool to generate scenarios and explore new technological and process-related solutions. Also exploring upscaling potential. We also work a little bit with business models and the social dimension. But main purpose also to explore how those tools can be used to support stakeholder dialogue, communication between different stakeholders, and simplify collaboration and decision making. And also transferable knowledge. So what would it mean to take the learnings from our PED area to other areas, and also ambitions from energy efficiency to climate neutrality, which is also maybe more important in Sweden, where energy emissions are very, very low. So we also work with the materials and circular perspective. Yeah, here very short only the different parts on our journey. And we have different challenges here. The model is, of course, it's focused on the baseline scenario. What is out there already? How can we transform it? And here it's as usual, the data collection is tricky. Also in the high resolution we work with, 1 hour resolution. It could be even more, but for existing, it's quite higher. Anyhow, then also enhancing modeling to integrate feedback from users and focus on different scenarios. I will take you to the next slide here, which is somehow the same but a little bit different. So we have the 4 layers also in our modeling. We have the decision layer, and in our project we focus on building owners, the facility managers, urban planners, energy service companies, and policymakers, regulators. And citizens can be addressed through communication, but the main target group are those ones, the decision makers. Application layers, as I said before, we have the baseline scenario, and we have four scenarios outlined, and within the scenarios we have several conditions. The first 3 are the ones mentioned by Martin already, but also we added circularity. As I said, it's important for the Swedish context to also, when we work, for example, with renovation solutions or adding PV solution, you also put in material and embodied emissions. So we work with them as well. And the ambition was to work with a business model, but we have to step back a bit and focus, as the digital twins were not really ready yet to discuss this on this level. So it's more on the innovation level we work on. And technically, we work with the parametric tool Grasshopper as a simulation pipeline, which allows us also to add on very easily modules if you want or make changes. Here's also just the different data sources we work with. We have more, but just give you an idea what we're working with. I need to remove the images here. And from the simulations, we also carry out the different optimizations where we look at the costs for the different measurements we do in relation to the saved emissions and saved energy kilowatt hours. Here's just an example of visualization for the existing baseline for the household electricity and the heating for the existing building on an hourly resolution per day. And right now we are in the process to develop our digital twin view web-based, where we can explore, so our decision makers can explore the different scenarios, select and see the consequences. And we have user tests end of March and have final tests in the end of in the beginning of June. So we also work. You can zoom in and zoom out, and then you can select different scenarios and see the consequences. Those are just mock-ups. I just want to illustrate where we are. And I think it's not about the result per se of having the digital twin, but it's also very important to think about the process, how to arrive at the digital twin, and involving the necessary people already in the discussions very early when creating it, because you have both the tool and the process, and you have a lot of learning between the stakeholders already when doing all this work together. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liane, for an interesting presentation. I will share my screen again. We have room for one or two short questions here as well.
Volker?
Yeah, one from Volker.
Yes, thanks for nice presentations. My question is, you have a nice distinction between the digital model and the digital twin with real-time data, and also say a row where you use a digital twin. That was in the introduction as well, to use it for monitoring and say control of an existing positive energy district. But the examples that were shown so far, and we do it as well, we use the digital twin more for planning purposes. Can you say a little bit more about this use case on digital twins? Is it more on the planning side, decision-making side, or more on the monitoring and control side?
Let's say we are targeting monitoring, but in the Swedish case, we have a renovation case. So we want to explore, we want to plan renovation measures and understand the consequences, and also see what is necessary to actually arrive to an PED. How far can we get, starting with existing buildings, and also we have some new buildings to be constructed in the area. So it's also to see the complexity and look at them together. So it's a renovation and transformation planning tool then. Yeah. And the monitoring is like handing over, and there we come in when we call it assurance tool for the whole project we have, is somehow to have information from the very beginning when you start sketching until the operation of the building. So you have the same information and everybody's on board. But in the case is planning of renovation, transformation.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Volker. Jean Salom, you have 30 seconds to ask a precise question to Lian.
Okay, thank you very much, Lian, for the presentation. That's very nice. I think I wanted to ask about more the modeling part. I don't know if you implement, I would say, pre-simulated data, or you are just running simulations on demand, and specifically about the buildings, which type of models that you use for the simulation?
Yeah, I think we will actually aim at both. We start with pre-calculated simulations for certain aspects, but we're also working on a pipeline to open energy to make changes in the simulation tool that can directly mirror it in the digital twin later on. So it's kind of hybrid, so to say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think with that, thank you very much, John. With that, we will move on to the next project pitch, which is the Synergies project by Ivos here. The floor is yours. And let me see if I can... Still not working, so please hand over the...
I'll try to take over. Thank you, Jonas.
Do a hostile takeover, please.
Yeah. Share your screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Ewart Vos. I'm a senior researcher at Entrance, the Center of Expertise Energy of Hanze. I'm a direct colleague of Frank and Martin. And I will be pitching the use of digital twins within the Synergies project that we have been doing. So the Synergies project, briefly, what have we been doing? And I say have been doing because we finished the project December last year. So this project is finished by now. The motivation for this project has been that we see an increasing share of intermittent renewable sources that require a better utilization of the flexibility in our energy systems. These intermittent renewable sources can be controlled to a lesser extent than the traditional power plants that we see. And in this project, we have checked how can we better utilize the flexibility which is inherent to a system. What was the goal at the beginning of the project? And I can by now say that we actually achieved that goal, that we realized a market-based control system for a so-called smart multi-commodity energy system. Smart meaning we have some intelligent control done by agents, done by several universities in the project. Multi-commodity in the sense that we have been looking not only at electricity, but also at hydrogen and heat as an integral system. And the energies that we have been looking at is two different types of clusters that I will briefly touch upon in the next slides. On top of actually realizing this prototype, we have done some tests in practice using the physical assets from two field labs that we have here in the Netherlands. As you can see on the right of this slide, the consortium for this project was quite diverse. Probably not all of them are familiar for our European partners in this call, but we have a nice combination in this project of industrial partners who are working on automation or on settlement, financial services, energy market support all the way to applied universities like ours in Delft and Groningen. So we had a strong consortium there with very different backgrounds. So what in the end did we achieve in our smart multi-commodity energy system? We developed some new local energy markets for electricity, hydrogen, heat, which were complementing the existing wholesale markets. So on top of the existing markets like the APEX spot market, the day ahead and intraday markets that are already there, we developed local markets for the clusters that we investigated. We took an agent-based design there, where agents were operating assets in the clusters or PEDs, which were completely decoupled using a centralized data platform. And we tested this in practice using a combination of digital twins and physical assets. So the physical assets from our field labs and in Delft, the university developed a set of digital twins which were as a hardware in the loop simulation, doing some tests on these clusters. I will now briefly touch upon those two clusters that we have looked at, an industrial and a residential cluster. So the first cluster that we considered was an industrial cluster, what you see on the right here. This is Groningen Seaports, which consists of roughly two sites. The one, the one in front is chemical park, so that's chemical, energy-intensive chemical industry. And what you see all the way on the top right is the Eemshaven, which is a big harbor, and that's, well, one of the biggest energy producers of the Netherlands. That's where the energy from Norway and Denmark enters our country. We have a big offshore wind site, which is coming on shore there, and there are a couple of, gigawatt power plants in there. So there's a nice combination of big consumption in the front part of this picture and big production at the back, and that's what we considered in this project. What did we do with that setup? Well, we have a field lab here in Groningen, what you see on the right. This is Entrance, our field lab, and we have used a number of facilities from this field lab to represent the assets from Groningen Seaports. So imagine an electrolyzer, a 50 megawatt electrolyzer, which is planned at Groningen Seaports for 2030. So we looked a bit into the future because not all of the renewable assets were there yet. We have our own electrolyzer, and we use that as a scale model to do some physical testings on our multi-commodity energy system. Next to an electrolyzer, we used some PV parks from our field lab, a battery, and also a fuel cell. And we have been interconnecting those with digital twins, which I'll come to in a minute. Furthermore, we also looked at a residential cluster, the city of Leeuwarden. The picture that you see here is I think a picture or an artist impression. I'm still a bit in doubt, but this is Energy Campus Leeuwarden, which is one of the business parks of Leeuwarden, and we also included two neighborhoods near that energy campus to also investigate what is the residential energy usage. Is that different from well, we know it's different from an industrial side, but what are the main differences? And I remember at the beginning of the project that we thought, hey, there's probably an excess of energy coming from industry. Can we use it at the residential side to actually check what the interconnection, if there's any interdependence or any useful synergy between the two clusters? The spoiler is there that actually it turned out that both clusters were a net consumer or producer on the same commodity. So both clusters needed hydrogen import, both clusters had an excess of heat production, and both clusters had a shortage of electricity. So in the end, the exchange of energy between the clusters was very limited, but that's what you learn during a project. So also for that, for the residential cluster, we had also a field lab at Delft. This is the Green Village, similar to our field lab in Groningen, but then more focused on the residential assets. And there we included also a small electrolyzer, a fuel cell, and some PV panels in the hardware in the loop setup. And then it brings me to the usage of digital twins. So if you've seen these pictures that I've shown you before, here is an example for Groningen Seaports, GSP 2030. In 2030, there are plans for megawatt scale electrolyzers, like 50 megawatts, huge batteries. I think the biggest one is 1.2 gigawatt hour, so that's all megawatt and gigawatt scales. Well, what the University of Delft did is they built a digital twin on that same scale, the megawatt scale. And there I'm a bit, actually the question that you got, Liana, before is this truly a digital twin? I doubt that, since we are actually modeling a system in 2030, we don't have the physical counterpart yet. Yet these digital twins were really close to the setup that was in the agendas for 2030. And we did couple them in the end to the field lab assets. So there we had to make some transformations because our field lab assets are typically on a kilowatt scale. And if you want to couple that to a digital twin on a megawatt scale, you have to do some kind of scaling in between to make it representative and to run this system with both physical assets and the digital counterparts at the same time. So the usage of digital twins in the Synergist project has more been on the operational side to check, hey, can we get the system running? How does that work with market-based control? And can we actually get this system, this prototype working? Well, some examples.
Ewood, yes. 2 more minutes on the total presentation time.
Thank you for the reminder, Jonas. I'm done after this slide, so we're sharp on time. So this is just an example. I have tons of data to show. I just wanted to point out one particular example. What you see here are an example of what you see, the first three graphs in this picture left. So the day-ahead bits, clear day-ahead bits in the intraday bits give some impression about the market dynamics. So to what extent were agents able to actually trade their energy? And on the right, then you see, okay, is the digital twin actually able to follow the set point that it gets from the market? So if you've sold a certain amount of energy, for example, your battery, is the battery then also able to deliver that at the time slot that you did sell that energy? And the conclusions is that the digital twins are pretty good to do that. The physical counterparts were, well, with physical hardware, you end up with some alterations there. That's what I wanted to share with you for the digital twins. Very short pitch. I can spend hours on this project for more details. And if you want to know more and want to exchange more about how to use a digital twin as a tool, I warm welcome you to breakout session number 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ewood. And I will take over the sharing one more time. And we have time for one quick question now from the audience. And let me see from the participant list, I think.
Noel.
Yeah, Noel, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. It's not about a digital twin, but you were talking about access of heat production, and you assumed access from industrial buildings. Why did you assume access from industrial instead of residential, for example?
That's a good question. We did not. So we did not assume that. We actually went to the industrial partners themselves and asked them about their plans. Where the residual heat is coming from is, for example, there's a huge data center from Google in there, 80 megawatts. That's all residual heat. The plant electrolyzers all have an efficiency of say 60 to 70%. That means that 30 to 40% is residual heat. And if you sum all of that heat, excess heat from efficiency losses, that's way more than the heat demand within that particular cluster. And that's why we have an excess heat production there.
Okay, so heat production is not, it's not particularly electricity?
No, the heat is really the thermal heat.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, both of you. And next up, we have a final project pitch before a short break. And it is Volker Kohls who will be presenting the DigiTwin for PEDs project. Not to be confused with the digital twins for PED project, which Lian pitched previously. And we also, before I let you in, Volker, we also forgot to make some commercial for Lian's breakout room. She's also having a room focusing on digital twins as a concept, and Ewood here, as he said, is handling then the third breakout room after the break, focusing on digital twins as a tools. But please, Volker, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the invitation. Hope you can see the slides. And yes, the names are all similar. It's all something digital twins and something for positive energy districts. Yeah, that's the topic we talk about, right? So just as a, oh, sorry, it was, you see. So now we started the start of the presentation. Sorry for that. So in our project, we investigate and deal with 4 use cases, all in an urban district environment. One is a newly constructed district or planned district that's not available yet in Stuttgart, but the neighbor district is available, so Nordbahnhofviertel in Stuttgart. In Vienna, we have a new design, Wien Neugrätzel. In Rotterdam, we've chosen an existing district, Prinsenland, and in Wrocław, we have also an existing district that will be renovated. And we use, and that's why I asked, we mainly use the digital twin as a planning support tool in this sense. So we want to support the planning approach by better simulations and digital representation of the district, and let it be planned or already existing. That is, in some use cases, it's renovation, so the district exists. Some use cases, like in Stuttgart, the real positive energy district is just planned, it does not exist. But of course, I would say we already have a digital twin, because in my definition, the digital twin can contain assets that do not exist in reality yet. Otherwise, it's not a planning support system, right? So we need to have this. So what I would like to focus today a little bit more is data, in that sense, that we, for data access, we try to build the tools based on open data and open standards, open interfaces. So here we focus on the Open Geospatial Consortium interfaces and data standards like CityGML, an extension we develop, or we have developed in the project, the Energy ADE, the OGC SensorSyncs API to integrate sensor data, etc. So the main, what is for us very important is that all interfaces and components we use are based on standard interfaces. Yeah? So in the end, we try to achieve a toolbox to build with components that exist, and we can plug them together via standardized interfaces. And we try to use open data as much as possible. It's not always possible, but mainly what is possible we want to do with open data. Here you see an example from the Wroclaw use case. But all use cases share the same data model, the same, in a way, data formats, the same APIs, the same software components. That's for us very essential use case, as mentioned, that we don't build a specific twin for Stuttgart or a specific software tool for Stuttgart, a specific software tool for Vienna, etc., but the same software tool filled with different data for the different case studies. So that's the aim that we want to do, and all is web-based. I have not mentioned it here. So I like the term the digital twin viewer. That is, for us, it's a web browser. That's our digital twin viewer. Here's a little bit technical components we use. We said it's a deep dive, so I'm free to share. So on the one hand, we use a 3D CityDB to store data in CityGML. That's basically the 3D representation of the built environment. And then for the viewer, we convert it to data formats that we can stream via the internet. That's 3D tiles. We have two simulation components. SimStart is, say, where we do predictions, and MAPED is a tool where we assess, is it, with these simulations, do we get to a positive energy district? So MAPED is a tool to do energy balance and see, is it positive? Do we come to a positive district or not over here? And these tools are partially from partners. Here's another prototype of the Stuttgart scenario, and here you see an interactive component where, and that is the newest development that we want to test with users in the case study, where we ask different scenarios, different load profile scenarios on electricity usage, like are you willing to use your electric car to charge it at home, or do you charge it at your working place, etc. So we have different behaviors, behavior profiles, and then we can ask, we have sliders to say, okay, how many people will use scenario A or profile A, profile B, or behavior A, B, C, D. and then we can see what is the impact for the entire district on the energy load profile for this district, not for individual households, because we want to focus on the district and in a way inform people that their individual behavior has an impact on the energy bill, but has an impact on the electricity demand of the district as well. And that can save money for the energy provider as well, because and that is something where I believe a district is something people identify themselves with. A city, maybe not, but a district is something, at least in Germany, there are in every region specific words for my district, the Viertel or whatever. So there's an identification with a district. So if you can do something good for your district, then that's a hypothesis now, you're willing to support that. And that's what we want to find out with this tool. Now that's a team we work with, as mentioned, and yeah, that's a slide you've seen already. So you will find some examples on the on our website, and yeah, that's a short overview of what we want to do and why we want to do it, or we are doing it already. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Volker. I will try to take over the presentation again from you, and we have time for one quick question before we go on a well-deserved break. So I will look in the participant list if there are any raised hands. No direct questions to Volker as of now. Okay, fine. Then we thank you once again for your presentation, and thank all the previous presenters as well, as we now conclude this first part of today's deep dive. Now, the well-deserved break, 5 minutes only. Don't go too far away now. And after
don't leave.
Sorry, Christoph, you were saying?
And don't leave.
No, exactly, because now the interesting part begins after the break, digging even deeper into digital twins and decision-making tools. So see you again in 5 minutes.
1440, right?
Yes. So thank you, and welcome back, everyone. I hope you had the chance to get a bit of fresh air or some coffee instead, perhaps, as me. We now go into a more interactive part of the session, and Martin here will introduce us to the key questions to be discussed in the breakout rooms.
Yeah, I think we had 4 interesting pitches, each giving some more insight in different aspects of decision-making tools and digital twins. We will now go out into 3 breakout rooms for a more advanced discussion. And in order to do that, we have 3 rooms more or less on 3 different questions. First is, what are digital twins? So it's more about the heart of digital twins, how they are relevant and what challenges do you see. That is about really the art of making digital twins. And the second one is, how can digital twins serve as this effective tool? So it's more as the digital twin as a tool. That is breakout room 2. And the third one is when you are not really on the digital twin, but more on the more general decision-making tools, like the presentation, our first presenter, Frank Piri. What is the role of that kind of tools? And that is the kind of decision-making tools. Why are they relevant? What kind of data is needed? So we have 3 rooms. It's for each of you to decide and which question you like the most. We are 40 participants still in the call, so we will have approximately 12 to 15 people in a room. If you see that the room is very crowded, then you might go out and switch room to distribute a little bit even, and might be that the moderators will encourage you to do so, because I think it's good to be in not too a big group to do a good discussion. For the discussion, we will have a mural tool to assist you in the questions, and the three room people are first of all Liana for breakout room number 1, digital twin as a concept. The second one is Ewout for digital twin as a tool, and the third one is Frank for decision-making tools. We will go out in the break room for 50 minutes, and then after that we will have a small plenary feedback and one plenary question to all of you. So let's just go out, and I wish you a very fruitful discussion.
Martin, can you just shortly show the sub-questions? I think we have the slides.
Yes, I think the questions are on the screen, or not?
Also, we had slides with sub-questions as well.
Yeah,
then you can advance, Johannes, with the slides.
Yeah, I will. It's a lot of text on each slide, but basically it's showing what sort of semi-structured discussions one can expect in each room to focus on. But it's really you, the people in the room who of course will shape the discussion, so to speak. I will leave it for 10 to 15 seconds here before showing the sub-questions for the next room.
Yes, this is about enough time to read, so let's advance.
And now, slightly different sub-questions for breakout room 2.
Yes, please.
Okay, perfect. And then I will show the final breakout room and its sub-questions. So with that, I hope you feel ready to jump into one of the 3 rooms. And I will hand over to Caro to be able to choose.
All right, so the room should now be open. If you click on breakout rooms in the menu bar, you should be able to see them and choose which one you'd like to enter. Yes, we have the first people choosing a room. And you should also be able to move between rooms or back to the main one. I do think we can probably stop the recording for the duration of the breakout session. Because
no, are we? Thank you. Okay, and Martin, are you also here, back in the room?
I'm back in the room, yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, I hope you had some nice discussions in your breakout room. And now we are back here in together, everyone, to conclude. Mm-hmm. And I think I will hand over to you, Martin, to lead us through that discussion.
I must say we are a little bit more or less struck back a little bit early in time. So at least from the discussion session we were in, we were in the middle of something. Yeah. So probably that is within most groups. Yeah. So let's do a quick round from the reporters from the different groups, and then we hope to continue the relevant discussion points in the plenary session. Let's see how that works. And if that is a good discussion, we keep on. And if we see that it's too many people to discuss, then we can always stop earlier. We'll see. Yeah. I will first ask the first breakout, which is, let me see, Jonas, you did the reporting there?
Yeah, I did.
Can you tell a little bit what happened in your breakout?
Yeah, maybe together with Lian, I was hoping we could do a summary on the breakout room. I actually engaged quite a bit in the discussions, even though I was supposed to be taking notes. So we'll see how the notes work out in the afterwork here. But very interesting discussions. We talked a bit about ownership of the digital twin and responsibility of data in relation to the digital twin. And we had some different experiences from our countries and from different projects within the countries as well, where sometimes a bit hard to get a hold of data from energy companies due to various factors, security and being one, but also in other countries or in other projects, hard to get hold of real-time data from the municipality as well. And then there was this discussion on who has the capacity to take the ownership of the digital twin. Sometimes it's the academia developing or prototyping the digital twin, but maybe not in the long run. That is sort of their business going forward. In one example, there was a clear leadership on a digital twin, integrating it in the physical planning process. And there, the municipality, of course, wanted to take the leadership for that digital twin. We then continue to discuss how digital twins can support development and implementation of PEDs. And there we talked about the ability of a digital twin to both monitor achievement of goals, simulating different scenarios, to explore the best possible pathway, but also the ability to backcast a more mission-oriented pathway towards a PED in opposite of a forecast then. And also that a digital twin supports engagements of residents and other types of stakeholders through its visualization and modeling. And finally, where we were a bit interrupted, we had started a discussion on what is a digital twin in relation to a PED. And it's really this holistic way of planning, linking energy-related infrastructure and data with the built environment and physical planning. Adding perhaps even layers on socioeconomic structure, etc. I think that's a bit of what we discussed. Does anyone, Lian or any of the other group members, want to add or emphasize on what I just tried to summarize here?
I think it was a good summary of the discussion. And for me, it was a bit surprising. It was interesting to see that the municipality was really pointed out as a potential key owner of the digital twin. So it's a bit my takeaway. Anyone else who wants to add anything to it?
It's fine.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the second breakout room, where I happen to be the note keeper, so I will continue. We first concentrated on the question, what makes digital twins a successful tool? Which use cases are served by digital twins and what questions can it answer? And yeah, we had some nice post-it gathering around it. You can all see that in the mural board. It's open for everybody. But one of the things that popped up was that it's not only a representation of the real world, but also the prediction aspect of a digital twin is important. So we said it's data integration and beyond real time. For instance, to understand flexibility on the markets, that prediction is very valid. So that should be kept in mind. We also, like in the first group, observed that digital twins can serve as a kind of communication platform to engage people. I think that was a conclusion of breakout one as well. And we saw that digital twins can serve a role when things are not actually built yet. You could start with digital twinning before the building process to see how it will become in the real world. And that's definitely a purpose for digital twinning. Then we went to the second question, to what extent should the digital twin model the real-time world and what time resolution and granularity it should have. And we said, okay, served fit for purpose, depending on the purpose and depending on the goal of monitoring, you have to choose your level of detail and also your time constraints and data constraints. You need a bridge with data. So normally digital twins are filled or stuffed with data or built from analysis of real-time data. So that's important. And we also then had a discussion whether it could become too big to handle. If you want to have a very realistic behavior of the real-time world, you will do a lot of modeling and then the model can become too difficult. And we discussed whether there was a modular approach. Then one of the participants said that there is indeed EU standardization for data sharing and those kind of things. So there is indeed the notion that in order to make a big complex model, you should have some kind of layering or some kind of organization. Otherwise, it is not doable anymore. Then we were on the question on validation. And well, then we more or less were also in the end of our session. But of course, when you have the real world, you can compare your digital twin with the real world. But if you build a digital twin to predict the real world, because the real world is then not yet actually there, then you need other kind of validation measures. And there we didn't we didn't reach a conclusion there. So we might give it a try. I think that's all for breakout 2. Eva, do you miss anything?
No, I think the main takeaway that I took from this session is, I think before this meeting, I had a clear understanding the difference between a digital model and a digital twin is the coupling with the real world. But this whole discussion about predictions and looking into not yet existing systems, that is food for thought for me. So it was a valuable discussion we had, I think.
Martin, if you are talking now, you were muted.
Sorry, I'm muted. Which brings us to the last breakout room. And who was the note keeper there?
I was the note keeper. Thank you, Martin. We had a very nice and lively discussion, lots of post-its. Our group was focused on decision-making tools and how they could support decision-making processes within the energy transition, especially for municipalities. We had a first question focusing on how to make the tools itself useful. And a lot of participants mentioned that we need to keep it simple. We need to keep the tools simple for people to understand. And then it also, simple is not the same as understandable. So the whole thematic of energy is a very complex topic. So although we need to try to keep it simple, we mainly need for people to understand what's happening, which is not the same as simple. We also discussed that there are already a lot of tools out there, but at the moment they are very technical. So we need to make them more user-friendly interfaces to help decision makers. So how can we use those models that are already out there to also be applicable for decision makers? Also, there needs to be a differentiation between the different types of users. For instance, a mayor needs a different approach compared to someone living in a social housing block. And to conclude, the tools also need to be reliable and stable, because if you're working with stakeholders, you want them to be confident in the results and not have the tool not get concrete numbers and so on. Then we moved on to the second question: in which part of the decision-making process do we need these tools? Well, actually, we need tools in every part of the decision-making process, but they need to focus on different aspects. So we need tools that support us in expectation and goal setting. We need tools for scenario planning. We need tools when a project is finished, so in monitoring. There were some people advocating that it would be simpler to use the same tool, because then people would only need a training for one tool, but this tool needs to have different modules to cater for the needs of the different timings in a project. And then we wanted to move on to the third question, but our time ran out. In which way in the decision-making process could we use tools? I had a quick look already on the answers, but we did not discuss them. So if anybody wants to add, please feel free. Some people wrote down results are a starting point. Results of the tools are a starting point for the discussions. Tools need to be used in workshop settings, and the tools need to be very visual. But like I said, we didn't have time to further discuss, so any further additions are welcome, also for the other parts, of course.
Yeah, thank you, Annelies. Anything to add from Frank?
No, very clear explanation, really nice. And the one thing I can say is that, okay, can decision-making tools support the decision-making process? I think the answer is yes from the group. They could be very important and play a very important role. But of course, they need to be specified to that specific decision that needs to be made. And of course, they need to be not as simple as possible, as Annelies very clearly indicated, but they need to be understandable as possible for decision makers to make good decisions. And of course, they need to be trustworthy. So that concluding, make our group say, I hope I can make this conclusion for the group, but that, yeah, DM tools could be very important in the decision-making process, but they have to be done correctly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are now in one big group, 28 participants. Is there anything that you have heard that you would like to discuss further in the plenary group? I see one hand raised by Noella. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, I would like to use this opportunity to ask about whether or not anybody has worked with the local digital twin toolbox. This is an initiative from the European Commission started in September 2023, and it is it provides cities with an open and interoperable framework to integrate geospatial energy infrastructure data, and it is meant to support urban digital twins while aligning with EU policy efforts to standardize digital twin adoptions across EU. So this project is going to finish by September 2025 this year. And it seems to be a toolbox that is positioned as a potential solution to bridge the gaps that we identify today in multi-stakeholder environments. So I'm very curious if anybody is involved in this, maybe a use case or something, or just interested in the outcomes of this research. Seems like it is going to be made available for, especially for cities, to have a standardized framework.
Yeah, there is already in the chat a question to you, Noelle, to share a little bit. If you share that in the chat, but also share that with us as the organizers, then we will make sure we make it into in the document that we are going to prepare. Are you personally involved in the project, or are you just raising it as an interesting thing that you use as input?
I am involved in the project.
Okay. And who has the leader? Which organization?
It's a company.
It's a company. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I am involved, but not too much.
No.
It just yeah. I can discuss this further if you want my contacts, maybe.
Yeah. Well,
Did you share the link in the chat there for everyone?
Excuse me.
Any more on this?
Share the link. Yeah.
There is no link right now because this is an ongoing project. The toolbox is not ready yet. There are, I can LVT toolbox. You can Google and there's something.
Googled it, and this is what I got: European Local Digital Twin Toolbox Project. I'm not sure if probably that's it, right?
Yes. Yeah, that is it. But they are right now looking for use cases or for expert panels. So it's still developing, and there is a way for I think all of us to contribute to this if we see fit.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this? I know that the group leaders were more or less forced out of the breakouts, and I know from the session that I was in that the final ultimate question was not yet addressed. Will we give it a try, Ewout?
The final question of our session, you mean?
Yeah. The central question is...
Central question is, how can digital twins serve as effective tools for decision-making for the energy transition? What challenges and opportunities they present for PEDs?
Yes.
I think most of the topics that we have discussed, you already briefly mentioned in the sub-questions, and that would be summarizing what you already said at this moment.
Okay.
Anybody else from the session would like to say something on that?
Yeah, or the general public. I mean, we are now in one big session, so... If not, okay. Then I would like you, Jonas, to advance the slide, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, you already did. Because I now raise a new question. I understood from the beginning that 77% of you are researchers, and we are interested in making the energy transition happen. So we would like to have impact as researchers. And I think especially from those who are not researchers, but also from our own, what would be the questions for, let's say, the next 1-2 years to address related to this topic? Is there somebody who has a kind of urgent need to do something which was not in their past projects? And if not, I will give you an example from our breakout in the discussion. I felt the need for a kind of digital twin framework to be able to plug in different models and to move from so low detail to larger detail. And I'm not aware whether there is something like that. and we had some discussions, but I was wondering whether some of you have tools or have no developments that I don't know yet. And would this be a thing to advance on with our scientific community? Is there anybody who can react? Noelle, please go ahead. Thank you for breaking the silence.
Yes, so in the Netherlands, there is already a framework being set up for the different data types in which the companies are supposed to store the data. So if this, I see this as the first step in making everything interoperable. So this platform it's actually a platform of agreements. So it's like the collection of agreements surrounding data sharing and data use in the built environment. So in this kind of frameworks, it's also mentioned how to connect different kind of software. So this is what's going on in the Netherlands, and I know that they are working on this a lot, but I don't know how it is on EU level. So I think this question extends beyond just PEDs. It is a standardized framework. How does data communicate with each other? Because the whole data question, it's fairly new because we just started working with a lot of data in the past 10 years.
Are you now talking about the development of the Data Federation platform?
No, DSVO,
okay.
Digitaal Stelsel.
I know about the Data Federation platform, which is also happening in the Netherlands, and that is where the grid operators try to find a mean to open their grid data. And we as researchers see, in many cases, a lot of need to understand the utilization of the infrastructure, especially with the grid situation in the Netherlands, but also in general, when we are going to establish a PED, and this PED has dependencies to outside, we need to know those dependencies. And in order to know that, we need some data from the grid operators. And we see that those data are not open and they are not always willing to share. And without having this data, we cannot do anything as researchers. And in the Netherlands, those people understand and they are willing to share the data, but that process is very slow. That's at least what I can add on this. Is this recognizable in other countries? I see a hand from Jonas.
It's sorry, nothing to do with the topic, just the timekeeping, and that we need. But I'll let someone respond to this. If we have anything, then I would like to start making the closing remarks of today's deep dive.
That is good. We had a good and long session, and it's also good to wrap up. So whenever you're thrilled by these kind of things, please keep us posted, leave a note, put it in the chat, or contact us, and we can always try to build something on top of this session.
Thanks a lot, Martin, for...
this is my last slide. What we will do is that we will write a short text on the discussion, and we will give you some stake in that to see whether we really captured your discussion and remarks well. So we have a kind of editing and feedback round, and then we will, a white paper is a little bit too much, but we will at least collect it into something which is tangible and which you can use in your further exploration of this topic. So thank you for your participation so far, and now I will give the word to Jonas for the concluding remarks.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks a lot, Martin, for leading the topic and the discussions here in the end as well. And I hope you found the pitches and as well as the discussion valuable and insightful. And as we wrap up the session now, we'd love to hear your feedback on it. So if you please could go to Menti once again, I can try to paste it in the chat as well. It will only take a few minutes and your answer will be completely anonymous as well. So please feel free to share any thoughts you have. maybe that I should learn Zoom a bit better, perhaps, could be one feedback, as well as other things as well on the content and format and overall experience. Yeah, to make future sessions even more impactful, so to speak. As we continue the workshop series, don't forget to sign up for the upcoming sessions so you don't miss these 2 future exciting deep dives that we have planned for. But in relation to what previously has been communicated on dates for the upcoming 2 sessions, there has been some very recent changes, and due to conflicting engagements from the planning and from the planning side, we have moved the 4th deep dive from the 10th of April to the 8th of May, where deep dive 5 originally was planned to take place, and for which we have not yet settled on a new date for. So we'll get back to you with that information as soon as it is decided. But the next deep dive then, number 4 on flexibility services and climate impact assessment, is to be held on the 8th of May. And you can use this link to register, and please spread it to colleagues as well. Martin, your hand raised.
Yes, I will probably also in the organization committee of the next deep dive. And if you have something to add on the topic, or a project pitch that you would like to give, then please let us know, because we have probably the same room for 4 pitches. And if you really think that your project should be part of this session, then please come to us. Thank you.
Very well put, Martin. Good usage here of this space to spread and get some more project pitches. But I see now that time is running out. And while you hopefully give us some feedback, I would like to thank everyone who showed up on this event this afternoon. We enjoyed planning it, and I hope you leave with some new insights and connections and inspiration to apply to your work and beyond. So thank you once again for being part of this workshop, and we look forward to seeing you in future sessions. Take care now and stay safe.
Just one word to add, just so that you know, okay. You will get again the link to the recording of the meeting and the slides in the next days. This is an internal link for the video, so please don't spread it beyond your projects, because we didn't agree on a public. Just to have that said, we didn't agree on a kind of a public use of the video. But I think we're getting a great collection of content related. Well, not podcasts, but a series of inputs. So thank you very much also from my side to all of you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.